This is Horror Podcast.
Welcome to This is Horror, a podcast for readers, writers, and creators. I'm Michael David Wilson, and every episode alongside my co-host Bob Pastorella, I chat to the world's best writers about writing, life lessons, creativity, and much more. Today we are chatting to David Moody, the writer of Hater, Autumn, and Shadowlocked. Next month he will release his brand new book, Kemberton, a book that he is pitching as Pet Sematary meets Gangs of London. And for me, this is the best book I have read this year thus far. Now, as with a lot of these conversations, this one is a two-parter, so we will get to it imminently, but before that, a quick advert break.
House of Bad Memories, the debut novel from Michael David Wilson, is out now via Cemetery Gates Media. Denny just wants to be the world's best dad to his baby daughter, but things get messy when he starts hallucinating his estranged, abusive stepfather Frank. Then Frank winds up dead, and Denny is held hostage by his junkie half-sister, who demands he uncovers the cause of her father's death. Will Denny defeat his demons, or be perpetually tortured for refusing to answer impossible questions? Clay McLeod Chapman says, House of Bad Memories hits so hard, you'll spit teeth out once you're done reading it. House of Bad Memories by Michael David Wilson, available now in paperback, ebook, and audio. From the host of This is Horror Podcast comes a dark thriller of obsession, paranoia, and voyeurism. After relocating to a small coastal town, Brian discovers a hole that gazes into his neighbor's bedroom. Every night she dances and he peeps. Same song, same time, same wild and mesmerizing dance. But soon Brian suspects he's not the only one watching, and she's not the only one being watched. They're watching is The Wicker Man meets Body Double with a splash of Suspiria. They're Watching by Michael David Wilson and Bob Pastorella is available from thisishorror.co.uk, Amazon, and wherever good books are sold.
Okay, with that said, here it is. It is David Moody on This is Horror. David, welcome back to This is Horror.
Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, so the last time we were speaking, it was May 2025, so about a year ago. And in that particular conversation, it was coinciding with the Daddy's Boy launch, and we were talking about hard left turns in fiction. And, you know, now I should start by thanking you because you've given an incredibly generous foreword for the special Thunderstorm Books edition of Daddy's Boy. So thank you very much.
Welcome. Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun with it. And as we said when we were talking about me doing the foreword, and as I wrote in the foreword, you know, we've done a lot of things together over the years, and it felt really appropriate to do it. And because it's based in Kidderminster, which is like 10 minutes down the road from where I'm sitting now.
Yeah, are you still going to Kidderminster to get your car serviced every year? Is that still the regular place?
It's going to be a non-stop exciting podcast, isn't it? If we're already onto car servicing in a couple of minutes.
In the first minute.
And I can tell you now, just to break the news to you, I now have biannual. Is that right? Every 2 years? Because we've got an electric car now, less bits to go wrong.
Yeah.
So I only have to go to Kidderminster every other year now, which is good.
Yeah, I was going to say that's probably a blessing.
That's a positive, yeah.
Yeah. Well, taking a hard left turn away from Kidderminster, as it has been a year since we last spoke, that does beg my usual question, which is, what have been the biggest changes for you, both personally and professionally, in that
Biggest
year?
changes. Well, do you know, actually, I was looking back on my website just to see when we last spoke and what we were talking about. And it seemed that last time we spoke, I was doing the kind of things that I'll probably be talking about tonight. So it doesn't seem like there's been a huge amount of progress over the last year. There has. I think a lot of things have changed for me here. I think the main thing is I've got a new book coming out, which hopefully we'll talk about, called Kemberton, which I did mention last time we spoke because it was an experiment for me. You know, it's just I got to the point where I got so many ideas that I wanted to work on. I thought it would be interesting just to kind of do one on the hoof and have one go in and just to serialize it online for my mailing list subscribers. So that's what I did. It's a very revised and expanded version of the book that comes out. But that was a lot of fun doing it like that. There's a certain additional discipline that you have to put on yourself when you've committed to giving people a chunk of a book you haven't written every month. But it was fun. So that I've done that. All the other big projects that I kind of hinted at, alluded to previously, the Hater film, things like that. Dirty Day, another novel of mine I was talking about, they're all, believe it or not, another 12 months down the line, and they're all pretty much in not quite exactly the same position, but in similar positions to where they were. I've got a couple of editors reading Dirty Day at the moment, and hopefully one of those will bite. And the Hater movie is still happening, but they're no further forward with the script. In fact, they took a little step backwards and decided to have a change of approach. I think it's quite a difficult novel to adapt, Hater. I think it's easy to write a basic horror script for it, but you need, well, certainly what the filmmakers are after is the sociological aspect as well, which I think has been missing from every draft that we've had so far.
Yeah, so it'll be no surprise that these are three topics that I really wanted to talk about today. And as we're now talking about the Hater movie, for people who haven't listened to every conversation we've had over the last decade, what is the brief history of the film adaptation of Hater?
So the brief history, it's actually been almost 2 decades now, because it's actually the 20th anniversary this year of the original release of Hater through Infected Books. So that's before it was picked up by Thomas Dunn Books and St. Martin's Press in New York and Gallant's in London. So just to go right back to the very start, I independently published Hater when I was just churning out zombie novels back in the day, as we did, kind of finding my way. I've been doing that for about 5 years, and I thought I was earning quite a decent sum of money, but not enough to write full time. And I thought, okay, just write another load of books, and hopefully your monthly income will be enough to be able to do this for a living. So the first book that I wrote after making that decision was Hater, and it was doing okay. It was selling quite well, and then randomly got an email. It must have been September, October 2007. The book had been out for about a year, and it was an inquiry about the film rights, and I thought it was a joke and dug into it a little bit more, and it turned out not to be a joke, and it was Mark Johnson's company. So that's Mark Johnson, who previously won an Oscar for producing Rain Man, and then went on, after getting involved with Hater, went on to produce Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. So, some serious caliber of filmmakers here. And we spoke on the phone and we did a deal, and he asked, I remember it very clearly, asked me if I'd ever seen Pan's Labyrinth. And I said, yeah, of course I have. It's a monumental film, absolutely incredible. And he just very casually said, oh, that's great, because I want Guillermo del Toro to direct Hater. He didn't, because that's when the fun really started, and Del Toro's career went stratospheric. Mine stayed pretty level, dipped level. You know what I mean? So Del Toro was signed on to direct. Then he was only going to be a producer because he got involved in the Hobbit films. This is how far back we're going. And then it kind of fell into limbo. I think Glenn Mazzara, who you've spoken to on the podcast previously, he wrote a screenplay which I don't think it hit the mark for them. So the project kind of fell apart. And then nothing was happening. I got the rights back, sold it to a guy in Newcastle, sold them to a guy in Newcastle, and we almost got a TV pilot made. But then another 5 years or so went on, and the same people came back again, Mark Johnson and Guillermo del Toro, and said, we didn't want to let this one go. It's the one that got away. We're really interested in doing it. So we want another bite. So we did another deal. And yeah, it's there. It's set up with one of the big streamers. It's very easy to work out who, but I've told them I'm not going to say anything, so I will keep quiet. And it's poised to go again, just waiting on the script and Del Toro's approval of that script. So yeah, it's been a 20 year treading water kind of thing, but I do complain, but I can't complain because it's ongoing publicity for the book. I've actually done pretty well out of the option money that keeps coming in every 18 months or so. And it's money for doing nothing really, and it keeps my book in the public eye a bit.
And in terms of Del Toro's current involvement, so what is his role at the moment with regards to the movie adaptation?
I don't honestly know what his official title is. I don't know how formal it is, but I know that they're in close communication with him, and he seems to be the one who's making the creative decisions on the project for now. So I think we're almost at the stage where they'll start telling me more, but not quite. It always seems to be next time. But you know this from your own experiences as well.
Yeah. No, I mean, in some ways there are parallels with our own journeys and with what's been going on with me and the girl in the video film adaptation. Although I'm hoping it isn't going to go on as long as your saga, because that means there's about at least another 15 years to go on this one.
I really do hope not, for your sake. It's got to the point now where I'm thinking, God, if this goes on as long again, I'm never going to see it made. I'll be another 20 years and I'll be 75. I mean, come on.
You got to hang in there. It's like that show, the recent hit on Apple TV, The Widow's Bay, which I haven't seen. I've heard like marvelous things about it.
Yeah.
That's not a recent script write. That script's been floating around for 20 years. The girl who did the script did Parks and Recreation, and that springboarded to get there. But it's like she never gave up on Widow's Bay.
Yeah.
And it's went through several different iterations of what it was, but it's like, and every time it's like, no, I don't think it's ready. And then finally, they got the right people and it came together. But it was 20 years from what I've read.
You need so much luck. It doesn't matter how good the script is. It doesn't matter how much you've put into it. I think it's with the film industry, it's all dependent on a lot of things all coinciding at the right time, and this person being available and that person being available and this studio wanting that, and it's interesting to say the least. But I am hopeful that it will happen. I'm hopeful for two main reasons. One is that the caliber of the people who are behind the project, but also because they came back for it. And I think if they weren't seriously intended on making this thing, then they'd have let the rights expire and wouldn't have come back when they became available again. But we'll wait and see.
Yeah, it feels like the most optimistic and the most hopeful that any of us have been about the Hater Film Project. Since speaking to you, since the first time that I spoke to you, about 15 years ago now. How ridiculous is that?
Yeah, because I wrote about it for the introduction. I wrote for Daddy's Boy, because it was literally a case of go and meet this person that you don't know in a pub you've never been to, in a place you've never been before, and talk about your books, but we did, and we hit it off, and I remember it very clearly. It was a good night, and then since then we've been in contact throughout that time, haven't we? Despite the fact that you've disappeared off to the other side of the world, you lucky man.
Yeah. Well, despite being the other side of the world, I still try to keep places like Kidderminster alive via my fiction. So there's a little part of me in Kidderminster, but luckily it's not physically me being
Yeah.
there, which probably for the best.
Yeah.
Now, how about Dirty Day then? Because last time we were speaking, that seemed to be the book that you were really preparing to put out, that looked like it would be the next big one for you.
Yeah.
And I think your agent was you and your agent were deciding what to do with it, where to shop it, how to put it out. So what's the plan?
Well, the plan was completely scuppered because my agent died, which was a real shame. Obviously, it was a huge loss for his family and friends, but I also found myself like unrepresented and still am unrepresented, and it was a bit of a culture shock for me after being with Scott for nearly 20 years. He was just so positive about the book. I remember his first response after reading it: "I don't like it, I fucking love it," he said. So, and he was the kind of guy who, when I'd sent him things which he didn't think had any commercial potential in the past, he wasted. He was a typical New Yorker. There was no bullshit. He just told me, "No, that's not going to work. No, we're not doing that." But with this one, he was 100% into it. So we did some work on it together, and I'd literally just sent him the last edit, and we were all good to go. And I got a message from his assistant. I'm sorry to tell you, he's passed away. He had cancer, but decided not to tell his clients, which is a remarkable thing to do, I think, and probably the right thing to do as well, because it was just business as usual for him for as long as he could. So I'm left with this novel, which I think I'm really pleased with. It's very different to anything that I've done previously. It's more of it's not a commercial thriller, but it's more thriller than horror. It's very of the moment. It's written in real time, which is fun. So it's minute by minute. There are no chapters in it. And it's about a guy who's down on his luck, and he comes across a mobile phone in a toilet in a shopping centre of all places, and it starts ringing, and he answers it and accepts an offer from the person at the end of the phone to get that phone delivered to her in her office in Charing Cross in the middle of London by 1 o'clock. So he's got this 80-minute dash across London to deliver this phone. But as he goes through, it becomes more and more apparent that there's a lot more going on than it's just a delivery of a phone, that the phone's the key to a bigger thing that's happening. And as he's trying to speed up and get through London, the rest of London is slowing down because there are terrorist attacks and the traffic network's been paralysed. It's very different to anything I've done before. And for that reason, I think I've kind of hesitated in doing anything independently with it. As I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned when we were recording or when we were talking before, but I've got a couple of editors looking at it at the moment, and I'd love for it to get a more mainstream release, because I think commercially it could do. It's the most commercial thing that I've ever written, I think. So we'll wait and see where that goes. If the editors that I'm speaking to come back and say they don't want it, then I don't know. Maybe it will be an Infected Books release, but that's okay. I'm happy with that. I think my attitude to publishing has changed a lot over the last 12 months. I'm just enjoying it. I'm just enjoying writing now, writing what I want to write when I want to write it. I'm very fortunate to be in a position in my life where I can afford to do that. Financially and emotionally, I can afford to do that. I don't have a lot of outgoings. The mortgage was paid off. We're quite comfortable, so I can do it, and it's just kind of liberating to be able to write what you want to write when you want to write it. And if it works and if it pays off, and the book's take off with publishers, then that's brilliant. But if not, I'll just keep putting them out and hopefully keep my indie audience growing.
And with those editors that are looking at it at the moment, are those conversations that you set up previously prior to your agent passing away? Are they conversations that you've sought out since then? And do you think that going forward, will you be looking for new representation, or having been in the business for as long as you have, do you feel that you've kind of got enough contacts and expertise that you can do this yourself?
So the conversations I'm having at the moment are with people that I've worked with before. And one of them, I asked if he was interested in a novel. The other one, he just caught wind of it from my newsletter of all places and said he'd like a look at it. So it's nice to know that people are still paying attention and they are still interested in what I'm doing. In terms of representation, I just found it really disheartening. I did start looking for an agent because as great as Scott Miller, my agent, was, he was in New York and I'm in the UK, and that made the relationship a little bit less natural than maybe it would have been if he was in the UK. We couldn't just meet in the pub and sit down and talk about stuff for a bit. It was, and with the time difference and everything, it was more a case of having to put structured calls in. And he was also he came about through an editor I was working with when everything went wild with Del Toro. So he was probably too big an agent for me at the time, if that makes sense. Some of his other clients were celebrities. I think Pam Grier, who was in Jackie Brown, and what's his name, Harry Shearer. So the drummer from Spinal Tap, who does the voices for The Simpsons. I'm thinking, shit, why are you taking me on? But he did, and everything that he sold for me, he got me a really good deal. But I think there was that disconnect of size and distance. So I did start looking at agents just to see if I could get anybody a bit closer to home. And I found a few to approach, but to be honest, whether my approaches were poorly put together or what, but I got bugger all response. And I just thought after a while, this isn't working. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing myself here. And then the thought struck me, and it might sound a bit arrogant, but my biggest successes have come from things that I've generated, not that other people have generated from my ideas. Everything that came from Hater came from the little independently published book that I put out all those years ago. And it just seemed to me at this moment, at this point in my life, that the important thing is just getting on with writing the books and getting them out. I'm very fortunate in that I've got a decent sized audience, and people that they are happy to buy my books and they stick with me. I've got this little loyal core audience, and I really appreciate them, because I know I'll get enough sales to cover the production costs of the book. I always do a limited edition it's got additional content, hardcover for my mailing list readers, and usually the cost of that I'll break even, but it will cover all the editing costs or cover all the artwork costs, so that anything else that comes from other editions of the book is all pure profit. So it works for me financially. I'd be lying if I didn't say I wouldn't like some more big advances and thousands more sales, but again, I'm happy doing what I'm doing, and ultimately I think that's what's important. Sounds very wanky, but that's just how it is.
No, I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for just enjoying what you're doing, and as ridiculous a statement as it may be, money is overrated. Of course, we need some money, but we don't need as much as perhaps people think we need, as long as we can cover our costs and we can live relatively comfortably. I mean, I think there's too many people that I've seen that they've just chased the money. And I'm not just talking about writing here. I'm talking more broadly. They take the job that is the highest paying, but then they have no time. They hate the job, and they're betting everything on having a good retirement. Or some of them, they work so hard that unfortunately they don't make it to retirement. So I think we might as well, given that we don't know how much time we have, try to maximize the enjoyment and fill as many of our hours with doing things that we actually like.
I agree 100%. I'm sure with this is. I'm sure we're going to just end up covering the same ground that we covered in our previous conversation. So people will be checking to see if this is a new episode or a repeat. But the key word for me is enough, and I think that word doesn't get used enough. Funnily enough, I think you look at all the noise at the moment about Elon Musk becoming a trillionaire theoretically. And I know we've spoken about this because I remember when we took a mid-time break when we last spoke, I think the last thing I said was ban all billionaires or kill all billionaires or whatever, because to my mind, it's a sickness. No, hoarding money like that could be doing some good elsewhere. There's something wrong with you if you've got that much money in the bank, because they're still chasing more and more and more. And this is why, for me, the key word is enough. I'm really fortunate. I'm in a good place. And I feel like I've got enough. So I don't want to keep chasing. I don't want to keep pushing. One of my daughters, her partner, his stepdad works for HSBC. And I used to work for HSBC back in the day. I left after about 15 years. I was made redundant. So he's a similar age to me. And he's done obviously double that now, maybe 30, 35 years. And he's just kept going through the ranks, and he's very senior. He's not at director level, but he's very senior now, and he must earn an absolute mint. He must have just the most ridiculous salary and pension, but he doesn't enjoy it because he's spending every second of every day earning it. And I'm thinking, I had a heart attack at 49. I could have dropped dead, and the same thing could happen to him. And to earn all that money and leave it in the bank and then pop your clogs, it's just, what's the point? Just get enough, the money that you need, get enough and enjoy it, I think.
It's important to do that. Like at my job, I've been in my job for July be 14 years. I've never wanted to be a manager. If I ever get into a position to where they're like, hey, you have to move up, you can't stay in a position that you're in, I will find another job. Yeah. Because I do not want to be a manager, because you have no life. Mm-hmm. They always talk to me about your potential. You could do so much better. And I'm like you, David. I say, I've got enough.
Yeah.
I make enough. And they're like, well, we need you to do better. So I say, well, then I'm 50. And how old I was when I told him this. I think I was 55 when I said this. I said, I'm going to retire in probably less than 10 years. So what is the bare minimum I can do to where you can say that I'm doing better, but it's still enough? And so they give me this number, and I'm like, okay, good. That's my threshold. That's where I'm going to be. I'm not going to work any harder than that. You want people who work harder than that? And they're like, no. That's a lot of work. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, well, I can do it. And so I do this. I barely make it to where I don't lose my job. Mm-hmm. I make sure that there are people who are doing less than me. You know what I mean? And I still make my money. And I live the life that I want to live. Mm-hmm. I don't, that's the only reason I have a job is because I'm a diabetic and I need the benefits. Yeah. But, I'll probably work till I'm dead, but after I retire, I hope that I can possibly just get a part-time job and do more of the things that I want to do. Yeah. I'd love to be in a position, but I think I'm always going to have a part-time job, but I do enough. I'm like, I do enough. I have no aspirations on that. Writing wise, no, it's not near enough what I want to do with my writing. But when it comes to the actual, the daily grind, it's enough.
Yeah. But again, with writing, it's more about it. Well, I don't know if it's the same for you two, but for me, it's pleasing me first and foremost. That's why I do it. I write. I think I'll always write. It doesn't matter what happens. I think I will. It's just something I'm always going to do. The stories are always well, I'm sure you're the same. Stories always going through your head. Bob, you were talking about mowing the grass this morning. I bet you were thinking about stories while you were mowing the grass.
Yes, and not dying, but yes, I was.
Not dying, yeah.
I was thinking, and I tried to do that. I try to allow a mundane task such as cutting the grass and trimming the yard, where you're doing the same motions over and over again. I've trained myself to let my imagination run wild, and it has helped me work out things. But yes, I did think of some stuff that I need for my story. I did take a couple months off, and because I was very frustrated. I'm back at it now, but I'm just taking my time.
Yeah.
I'm not even word counting. I'm plugging away at one thing and just keep on going. And I'm overwriting it. And so I know that there's cuts, but I'm just going to keep on going till I can't go anymore. And if it takes me a year, it takes me a year. I'm not in any hurry.
Yeah, as long as you get the book that you want at the end of it, that's what matters, isn't it?
Exactly. That's to me, that's the most important thing. If no one ever reads it, I'm still going to write it.
Yeah, absolutely. I read something really interesting today. I wish I'd kept it up so I could properly cite it to you, but it was somebody was saying about how in this age with social media and our phones attached to us all the time, that we don't get bored anymore. And as a species, we're really missing out by not getting bored, because when you're bored is when your mind starts to wander. It's when you sort out everything that's in your head. It's when you have your good ideas. It's when inspiration strikes. And because we're permanently scrolling or watching the news 24 hours or whatever we're doing, that space in our lives has disappeared. And I think that's a real shame. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I've lost track now. Were we talking about me going on a wild camp before we started recording? So this sound absolutely nonsensical if I start talking about that now? Nobody know what we're talking about.
I think we mentioned it before we recorded, right. So we defined what midges were for Bob.
That's right.
No one else will know. Not no one else, but probably
no one will know what a midge is apart from us.
Yeah.
So just to put it into context from anybody who's paying attention. So last week I went on a wild camp with a long-time reader of mine who's been a fan of my books, and he started a YouTube channel about wild camping. So we went off into the Yorkshire Dales for 24 hours, and it was just absolutely brilliant. Loved it. There's a video available on YouTube, and you can see us getting absolutely massacred by midges / gnats. Is that what we decided we were going to call them? Gnats?
Yeah? Yes.
Okay. So like flying full stops, but about 1 million flying full stops. I was going to say a flying period then, but that brings up completely different connotations.
Very different image for the British listeners. So
anyway, what was I saying? Why am I talking about this? There is a reason. Oh yeah, the reason is I drove to. He lives in Leeds. I drove 2.5 hours to him, and then to get to the camp to where we were going to start the hike from, it was another 2-hour drive, which he did. So we get to the end of this, so 4.5 hours in the car, and he said, "Right, we're going to lose phone signal here. Just send your final messages, etc., etc." It sounded very ominous, as I was about to disappear into the hills with him for 24 hours. But I knew what he meant. He said, "So sent a message to my missus. Just going to lose radios. Just going to lose mobile signal now. So you won't hear from me until we're back again." And it felt like a real wrench. This is the point I wanted to make. It felt like, oh shit, what am I going to do without this? How am I going to check my sales rank in the middle of the hills? How am I going to look to see if anybody's left a review? How am I going to know if any important emails have come through? It really did feel like I was chopping off one of my legs before I started this hike. But obviously we were there to do a job, so we put the phones away and went up into the hills. But what really caught me by surprise was the next morning when we'd packed up the camp. It was about 7 o'clock. It was absolutely beautiful. It was a lovely warm day. We were walking through this gorgeous countryside. A deer ran past us, and then there were loads of rabbits on the hills, and there were hawks overhead, and we walked through a field of cows, and then the phone started beeping again, and my heart sank, and I thought, oh, I don't want this. Do you know what I mean? I think we're so attached to them. They're so desperate not to let go. But then when you actually do let go, when you're forced to go back and listen and deal with them again, it's a real disappointment. We miss that emptiness. I think that space in our lives. Have I brought that back to what I was talking about originally? I think I have. Yeah, we don't get bored anymore. Was what I was saying.
I think that some of the greatest works of art came because of boredom.
Yeah.
Also, some of the greatest arts in the world came from someone making a buck and getting commissioned. But that goes with the territory. The thing, I don't know, something that I read a long time ago, I say a long time ago, probably within the last 10 years, that made a lot of sense to me was, I was reading the liner notes, that Trent Reznor had put on his website, I think for Bad Witch. And when Bad Witch came out, he said, hey, I want you to listen to this album, vinyl preferably, but your music, your choice, however you want to listen to it. He goes, but you need to put on some headphones and listen to this music, crank it up, listen to it. And he's like, and get off your fucking phone.
Yeah.
And listen to what some music. And he goes, just listen to really anything, but just, relax, chill out, take some deep breaths and just zone out.
Mm.
And I think that's missing that concept. Being in the tech industry like I am, I have customers that I can tell that they're addicted to social media. And I tell them, they're like, can you help me figure out how to send this type of post or something like that? And I tell them, I say, look, and especially like on Facebook, I'm like, I don't know how to work Facebook. They look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, no, I think one of the best things I've ever done was actually delete my profile. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah. And it's like, I hate to keep in touch with family and friends. I'm like, I'm 50 something years old. How did they ever reach me beforehand? Yeah. Sometimes they come and knock on the door. Are you home?
There's one now.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it's like, if they need to reach me, they're going to reach me. It's like, I'm not going to, enrich my life with social fucking media, but you can tell these people are just addicted to this shit. It's like, get off your phone.
Yeah. It is so addictive. I try not to use it very much, but even when you're trying to create on it, it becomes addictive. I was using, I think, Facebook and Instagram. I started posting more stuff on there, just trying to get a bit of engagement. And when you get a little bit of engagement, they reward you and throw you another carrot. Oh, well done. You had this many views. Let's see if you can get this many views plus X next week. And like an idiot, you sit there until you... I found myself sitting here, spending a whole day making a 30-second clip that gets like, I don't know, half a dozen views. And you think, well, what? I feel like I'm producing something worthwhile, but I'm really not. I'm just satisfying the algorithm or whatever. And that's a day that I could have used for writing. I could have actually done something worthwhile with that. But it's so easy to fall into the trap, isn't it? And I think there are whole swathes of the population that have fallen right into that trap. And it's terrifying. I remember, like, probably say this too many times, but when I was a kid, in the summer holidays from school, you'd get up when you decided to get up, get dressed, go out to the park, come back when it got dark. And that was your day. No screens, no anything. Just messing around with your mates. Inventing worlds, inventing stories. And I guess that's where a lot of us started coming up with stories for the first time. God, I sound so old. I'm sorry. Maybe it's because it's nearly 1 o'clock in the morning and still 25 degrees and I'm absolutely soaked through with sweat. I hope it's not looking bad. I keep polishing the dome on the video.
I mean, yeah, I think being that hot, and I mean, temperature wise, it's not for me to
thanks.
judge.
I thought that was a compliment then.
But, but Bob as well brings up an interesting point, because we're talking about, the need to be bored and how that can help us create good art. But then there's the other side of how we consume, how we watch, how we engage with art. And it's a very different landscape when, a lot of people, they can't just sit and watch a movie. They're on their phone at the same time. And
tell me about it. I know. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it means we're missing out if we do that. And I think we don't want to water down our art as a result. But I mean, I think some people do. I think a lot of studios, they consider, well, people are going to be on their phones, so we need to make the film accordingly. But if you do that, then art loses.
Yeah, there was a big thing recently, wasn't it? A Matt Damon film on Netflix, when he got criticised doing the press for it, because he just said, well, we have to have an exposition dump every couple of minutes. We have to, in the dialogue, we have to say what we're doing and why we're doing it, because people's attention span is so short now. Because since the last time we said it, they've been checking Facebook or Instagram or whatever. So we need to remind them so they stay with the film until the end. It's offensive, isn't it?
That's why Make a better film.
Yeah.
What the fuck, man?
I know.
It's like, I know it's easy to say that. I don't make films, but I mean, it's like, make a better film. They won't be on their fucking phone. I mean, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Usually I see that I'm going to live tweet while I'm watching this film. It's like, I'm not going to follow you no more.
Yeah, that is true. I like, I go to the cinema every week because it's very close to the house and I've got a pass, so it's as easy as using a streamer. And I make a point of going because I'll go and see any old crap just because of the experience of going to sit in a room where I know I'm not going to get disturbed for a couple of hours and I'm going to be able to properly concentrate as long as I don't fall asleep on this film, which I do. I always seem to fall asleep for about 2 minutes, 20 minutes in, and then I'm awake again, but it's always the critical 2 minutes that I miss. Anyway,
that's why Matt Damon puts the exposition dump in for people like you falling asleep.
Well, I think it's more for the youth and their social media scrolling than old men falling asleep. But yeah, the principle's the same, isn't it? I'm amazed the number of people who will sit in a cinema screening now and just constantly eat or look at their phone or talk to their mates or run up and down the aisles. It's crazy. But yeah, I go and see less popular films and just sit there when I'm the only one in there. And that to me is absolute bliss. Yeah. Because all you've got to do for that couple of hours is just watch that film.
Yeah, that's why I tend to find that it's better to either go to independent or obscure cinemas that, they're a little bit more expensive sometimes and they might be a bit hidden, but the people going are the people who really care about films.
Yeah,
or the other,
absolutely.
The other way to do it is to just go at the most obscure times, or to either go really late or to just go in the middle of a work day. Those are good times to go.
Yeah, no, it's very true.
Yeah, I saw Longlegs like that. And when I went during the middle of the day. It was the middle of the week. I went to go see Longlegs, and there was probably maybe about 10 people in the theater with me when the movie ended. And I really, really enjoyed Longlegs, and it hit me on a visceral level. But when the movie ended, I realized I was the only one left in the theater. Everyone else had left. They had walked out.
Really?
And it's like, you know what? If 10 people walked out of this film and I feel like this, then it wasn't for them, And then I went and sat in my car, and I have one of those visors that I have to remove. And I sat in my car with the air conditioning going, with the visor down for 10 minutes, just going, what the fuck? And then I realized I just left an empty movie theater. I don't think I've ever done that before. I was the only person in there. And then that actually kind of creeped me out, because that movie's like, it's just very creepy fucking film.
It is a creepy film. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good film.
Yeah. And I was like, man, And I couldn't wait to tell people. It's like, I just come back from Long Legs. My God, I had an experience.
No, you won't really find people in Japan walking out until the credits end. That was a stark difference between the UK and Japan going to the cinema, because, you know, one credit turns up in the UK and it's like, right, the film's over, we're going. Loads of people just kind of go out. But in Japan, they sit through the entire credit, the entire music. Only when the lights come up, the people get out of the cinema.
That's very Japanese, and it's it's a very polite and positive thing to do. I have to admit, I can't do that, because the problem as well, I think, is so many people are involved in. If you go and see a superhero film or a Star Wars film or something, the last 15 minutes of the runtime is going to be credits, because they'll have about 1,012,000 people working on the film. So there's a point. I use a website, After Credits, I think it's called, aftercredits.com, and just check if there are any post-credit scenes or any little stingers midway through the credits, and if we're all clear, then I'll have to admit, unless the music's really good, I'm just up and out straight away.
I didn't know about After Credits, so I'm always there waiting. Is there going to be something? But now you've like, well, you don't have to wait. You could.
I'm going to check now, because it is very, very useful. If you're a saddo like me that goes every week, aftercredits.com. You type in the name of the film and it will tell you if there's anything, any stingers, anything in the middle of the credits or at the end of the credits.
Yeah.
It saved me literally minutes of my life, that has.
Yeah. Get to the car park quicker and get home quicker, which means more writing potentially. So there you go. It's a productivity hack.
Yep.
Well, let's return to Kemberton. So, of course, we were talking about it initially was produced as a serial, and then you decided, okay, you're going to put this together as a book. What did that process of putting it together look like, and how did you decide the things that you were going to change and what you were going to keep the same?
I think whenever I'm writing a book, I've always got a document running alongside the current draft. Things I'd like to change in the next draft is usually what it's called, or points for next edit or something really inspired like that. So I'd kind of got a list of things that I wanted to do anyway. As it happened, the final book wasn't too different in terms of structure to the online version. It was just about 20,000 words longer and a lot more rounded, and it had a few more twists in it, and a few more a lot more character development than I'd put in before. It was a really interesting experiment, I think, to write a book like that, to try and serialize it as I was writing it. And I didn't do it completely blind. I'm not a pantser. I do like to plot. So there was an element of planning that went on beforehand, and then when I was ready to publish a chapter, I'd write like 2 or 3 chapters a week if I could, and then publish 3 at the end of a month, so that I was building up a backlog, so I wasn't going to write myself into a corner and end up killing somebody off who I needed like another few chapters further down the line. So it was it kind of kept me on my toes. It was really very interesting. But then when I came to do it again, it was just really analysing it and seeing what worked well, what didn't work well. It was interesting for me. I think it was the characters really that needed more development second time around. Some of the motives of the characters didn't really sit well in the first version of the book, the online version of the book. Some of them were not as sympathetic towards the main character of Kemberton as they should have been, particularly the mom. And I realised that it didn't work, and I got quite a bit of feedback on that it didn't make sense that the mom was just a kind of a passenger letting all these terrible things happen to her son without any fight back. So I was able to tweak that a bit second time around. but it was just it was great to do it over a period of time. I think it was like September 24 through to November or December 25 that I was serializing it. So it was just over a year. But by the end of that, I'd got an almost complete novel, and then I did 2 more drafts, I think, this year to get it to the finished point, with some beta reading in the middle of all of that. And it's come together really well. I'm very, very happy with it. It's been getting some good feedback.
So in terms of the feedback that you got for putting the book together, was a lot of that through the beta readers, or was that through the live reactions that you were getting as you were serializing?
It was predominantly the beta readers. I think I'm doing it again with another novel now, serializing it as I write, because for me it was a good way to keep writing, to always have a project on the go. But I think I realised afterwards that until the whole book's available, it's a bit of an ask for people to read something from a screen that's just formatted as a web page. There's nothing special about it. I didn't want it to be available as a PDF or an EPUB before it was completely finished, because I didn't want half-finished versions flying around the internet. So it was just web pages. And not only was I asking people to read a novel from the screen like that, but also there was a month break between each new installment, so it kind of disrupted the flow a little bit. There were a few people, some diehard readers, and it was really heartening to have them at the end of each month comment on what had happened and what they thought was going to happen next. But the real feedback came from the beta readers, and I think I had about 20 people reading this one. And I just sent the first full draft after the online serialization went out to them, and gave them about a month to get back to me, and I think pretty much everybody did, and there was loads of good feedback in there that allowed me really to tweak it and just iron out a few things that didn't quite work, and just put the emphasis in the right place, again with the characters predominantly, as I said.
And so I wonder if the experience of serializing the novel changed the way in which you were writing it, or the way in which you were perhaps ending some of the chapters. Because I had a kind of similar experience, but I was serializing a novel for one person, and that one
Right.
person was Ross Jeffrey. We had
Yeah.
an exchange of the latest novel that we both wrote, and what we would do is we would typically send about 10,000 words to each other every 2 weeks. And so, depending on the length of each chapter, he might get 2 to 3 chapters from me, but I would
Yeah.
really be wanting to make that chapter that I leave him on be a bit of a cliffhanger, or something where he's going to be really intrigued and excited to read the next installment. So I don't know if, I've been that conscious of every 3 chapters, ending in quite that way before. So it'll be interesting when I go back to edit it to see what
Yeah.
changes. And I will go back to edit it, because it's 120,000 words. So that was the thing too. It almost made it more indulgent. I think we were almost playing up to one another and being exuberant with our choices that we were making.
I think with my experience, because there was more of a slightly bigger audience. I've no idea how many people actually read it. I didn't bother looking at the stats, because that was kind of secondary to me. As long as somebody was enjoying it, then that was great, and as long as the book was getting written, then it was job done. I didn't consciously plan any cliffhangers or anything like that. I did, when I first started writing, wonder about whether I should. And I don't know how well this reference will translate to you, Bob, but it was like the EastEnders dum 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 in my head every time I got to. No, Bob's looking blank. So there's a really shocking soap opera in the UK that EastEnders that ends every episode with a cliffhanger and dum, 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 go the drums. So I was thinking, did I need to do that? But then it made no sense. In terms of the novel, it would have just been ridiculous. And I think, imagine writing a novel like that where there's a cliffhanger at the end of every chapter, or because I decided I was going to put 3 chapters on every month, this cyclical thing of every third chapter, dum, dum, dum. So it just wouldn't work. So what I decided instead was just to vary what I was going to post. So if I had got a good cliffhanger coming up and that was 2 chapters away, then I'd only put 2 chapters on. If it was 4 chapters away, maybe I'd give them an extra chapter that month and just do it that way rather than actually change the book itself.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me when I was giving Ross these 10,000 words. Of course, I don't write chapters in exactly 10,000 word blocks. So sometimes I'd have to choose between, right, am I giving him 8,000 or am I giving him 12,000 this fortnight? And I'd just look, which one do I think is going to end on the biggest note of intrigue? And I should probably clarify that, it was ending on intrigue and ending with something that would make him want to continue. It didn't have to be an EastEnders moment.
Yeah.
Which would probably be overbearing, especially in 120,000 words. I mean, I know we spoke about left turns before, but you'd be absolutely dizzy.
Yeah, you would be, wouldn't you? Yeah, no, it's interesting, a really interesting experience. And again, as I said, it's something I'm doing again because I had such a good time with it. I'm less confident about the one that I'm serializing at the moment because it's a little bit weirder. And Kemberton's quite a straightforward story, although it's got a few swerves in it that you might not be expecting. It's quite a linear and uncomplicated story, really. Whereas the one that I'm writing now is a little bit more high concept. So yeah, we'll wait and see how that one turns out. I have a feeling that the second draft of the one I'm writing at the moment will be very different to the first, but it's all good fun. It stretches you, doesn't it? That's the thing. It gives you an additional pressure, I think, an additional level of responsibility. It gives a different focus to writing, I think, when you do it this way. And yeah, I really enjoyed the whole process.
I think as well too, there's then no time for self-doubt, or if you do have self-doubt, then you have to get over it pretty bloody quickly because there's an audience waiting for what you're delivering.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, I'm far less confident about the book that I'm currently serializing for my mailing list subscribers. It's called DSEV, and haven't said what DSEV stands for yet. I've tried to get people to work it out. I've had one word guessed correctly. I'm not going to say which one it is, but it's a very odd book, which will go in a lot of very strange directions, and I'm happy with it on paper, but I am just waiting for the point where I post 3 chapters online and then go to write the next ones and think, oh shit, I've made a mistake here. Maybe I shouldn't have done that yet, or maybe I shouldn't have revealed that yet, or how can I say that when I said this in chapter 2? So we'll see how it works out, but it's it keeps you on your toes, as I said. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yes, it is, yeah. And this is why, again, your strategy of writing slightly ahead is a good idea too, which is what I was doing, but then my son decided to be born 1 month early, and then suddenly I wasn't so ahead. So
Kids for you.
How inconsiderate,
Yeah.
from day one, scuppering my plans.
I started this new book. I can't remember how many months ago now. Maybe I think I've posted about 4 sets of chapters. And I started writing with the intention of doing 1 chapter every week, so that I'd be so many chapters ahead now. But I've posted 8 online, and I wrote chapter 9 this week, so I'm like cutting it to the wire. It never works out how you plan. It's always the thing as well, I think, that you feel you can kick down the road a little bit because there's something more pressing that you've got to get on with. Like the book that's actually coming out now that people are going to pay for.
Oh yeah,
hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah, we trust.
How does that work when you serialize something online. I get maybe the rules have changed, or if there's even a rule or anything like that. I remember reading years ago that you don't ever publish anything on your website that you intend to publish as a book, because you get into if it's been published on your website, certain publishers might say, "Oh, that's not first. I can't get first rights. You've already published this." And I'm like, too many people are doing it now. So, I mean, maybe that's something that they really don't look at.
Yeah, I mean, it's to be honest, that's not something that I really thought about. When I first wrote Autumn back in the day, back in 2000, 2001, I serialized that and then gave the whole book away online for a long, long time before it was published independently and traditionally. And it's not something that really ever came up. And I've tried to use this as a bit of bait to get readers in onto my mailing list. So it's not behind a paywall. It's just password protected, and the only way you get the password is by subscribing to the newsletter. And the password changes every month, so you need to stay subscribed, and that's really just how I do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, the website that it's all hosted on is not indexable by search engines. It's like invisible to the outside world. Hopefully, I'm sure there are plenty of nerds and clever people who could get in and read it all, but really, it's so what? Hopefully, they'll enjoy it and buy a book.
Be pretty funny to go to all that effort when they could just literally sign up for the newsletter.
I know, but we're talking about nerds.
I bypassed all that. I don't need no newsletter.
I beat your system, old man.
Well, it's good to know that the rules have kind of, I don't know. And you read things and people's like, you're not supposed to do that. And it's like, well, there's a lot of shit you're not supposed to do, and people do it anyway. So I mean, it's like, I don't think that there might be some stodgy old editor, who's he's rattling his old saber going, "You can't do that," but probably not. It seems like it's not, and he's retired. So
But again, I think I'm fortunate enough to be in a position where I've got people who, not an enormous number of people who will buy my books, but I've got a decent core of people who will pick up everything I buy. So I know that it'll be okay. I'm not going to be left high and dry by doing it this way. I think as well, there's kind of a perverse way of trapping people in, because they start reading these things online and think, oh, I can't be bothered waiting for this. I'll just wait for the print one. So you kind of build up a head of steam of people actually waiting for the finished book to come out, which isn't too long now.
Which I think is a good way as a reader to get a preview to see, am I going to actually enjoy this? Because I'm probably not going to want to read an entire novel on my computer screen. But I can read a few chapters, and if I'm in, it's like, right, well, I'll pick this one up when it comes out.
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, you might open yourself up to privacy, you might open yourself up to issues, as you've been talking about there, Bob, but really I think the benefits outweigh the potential grief, potential problems.
Yeah, I think publishers are more interested in readership, they're more interested in story. They don't really care if you put it on a private newsletter behind an obscure website that isn't even indexable. I mean, Chuck Palahniuk, he put out Shock Induction as Greener Pastures before, the book was out. And I think, as with what you've done with Kemberton, I mean, probably the key is that people are then revising, they're editing, they're changing.
Yeah.
Maybe if you were literally copy paste from the website done, that could be an issue. But I don't think a lot of people are doing that. What they're putting out, what they're serializing, it's a rawer version. It's almost like the garage session.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's like when you get those special editions of CDs and they've got a disc of demo versions. That's effectively what it is. I don't know about you, but I never listen to the demos anyway. Why, just listen to the finished track, and it's the same. It's the same principle, really. You can go back and read it and compare the differences if you want to, but I wouldn't. I'd just hope that you'd read the finished version of the book and enjoy it.
I went through that recently. I'm a vinyl snob now, so I picked up Tattoo You by the Rolling Stones, and I got the double vinyl, and so I could listen to the demo tracks, and so it's like I got to hear for the first time ever the original "Start Me Up," and I know why they re-recorded it now, and I was like, man, I think I wasted an extra $15 on this. This is the reason why this stuff didn't make it. But it is interesting to see how that song evolved, and so I could see that there's probably a market for that.
Yeah,
definitely.
Thank you so much for listening to David Moody on This Is Horror. Join us again next time for the second and final part. Or listen to it right now and become a patron at patreon.com/thisishorror. And not only will you get early access to each and every episode, but you will get to support one of the longest running horror fiction interview podcasts. Now, before I wrap up, a quick advert break.
From the host of This Is Horror podcast comes a dark thriller of obsession, paranoia, and voyeurism. After relocating to a small coastal town, Brian discovers a hole that gazes into his neighbor's bedroom. Every night she dances and he peeps. Same song, same time, same wild and mesmerizing dance. But soon Brian suspects he's not the only one watching, and she's not the only one being watched. They're watching is The Wicker Man meets Body Double with a splash of Suspiria. They're Watching by Michael David Wilson and Bob Pastorella is available from thisishorror.co.uk, Amazon, and wherever good books are sold.
House of Bad Memories, the debut novel from Michael David Wilson, is out now via Cemetery Gates Media. Denny just wants to be the world's best dad to his baby daughter, but things get messy when he starts hallucinating his estranged, abusive stepfather Frank. Then Frank winds up dead, and Denny is held hostage by his junkie half-sister, who demands he uncovers the cause of her father's death. Will Denny defeat his demons, or be perpetually tortured for refusing to answer impossible questions? Clay McLeod Chapman says, House of Bad Memories hits so hard, you'll spit teeth out once you're done reading it. House of Bad Memories by Michael David Wilson, available now in paperback, ebook, and audio.
Okay, well, as always, I would like to end with a clip from a previous This Is Horror episode. And today is from episode 665 with Jed Shepard, in which he talks about the reaction to Host and the 10,000 hour rule. So, here we go.
Horror movies and horror literature has been part of my life since such an early age. And I think, it's a 10,000 hours thing. If you put that much passion into something, eventually it's going to pay off. I do truly believe it. And, I spent so much time, dissecting horror movies with my friends, going to horror movies, going to video shops and asking them for their list. Remember, video shops used to have a special list. You just go in and go, can I see the list? And they would bring out a list underneath the counter of all the crazy horror movies they had that they've imported from around the world. I used to love that stuff. And I mean, it's extremely humbling and unbelievable, really, that Host is in that conversation. I still can't believe it. It's still very recent to me. It's one of the highest rated, not just horror movies, but movies of all time on Rotten Tomatoes. In December, I think it was, they named it the seventh best horror movie of all time. And it's it's every year it's either first or second and scariest movie of all time as well on those lists. And it just absolutely blows my mind, because I didn't expect it. And you don't expect it from, some British guys from, and yeah, we don't have too many movies in that conversation from over here. So yeah, it's crazy. It's hard to describe. I remember it was maybe like a week after Host came out, and me and Rob, and the bubbles were open again because Boris Johnson had let us out for a little while until the next lockdown. But I remember me and Rob lived on the same road, so we'd hang out every day basically, and we went to our local Greasy Spoon cafe. This is a week after Host came out, and we were there eating egg and chips with the TV on, and we looked up, and there's us on ITV primetime news interview because there's a delay. They record it in advance, basically, by a little bit. So we're just done the interview with ITV News, like 6 o'clock news. Then went to this cafe and sat there just to talk, and then we see ourselves on this big screen, and everyone in the cafe is looking at us like, oh, and we were just like, this is so strange. This is so weird. And then, we did like interviews for the BBC and stuff, and it would just, people came out of the woodwork and were just, oh my God, just saw you on TV. Like, what the hell? And, in that, Host led to everything, really.
And if you want to listen to the full episode with Jed, you can listen to episode 665 of This Is Horror Podcast. Or if you want the video version, it is available on YouTube, youtube.com/@thisishorrorpodcast. And if you would like other inspirational clips from past episodes, please do follow us on TikTok and Instagram @thisishorrorpodcast. Okay, well that does it for another episode of This Is Horror. So until next time, for part 2 with David Moody, take care of yourselves, be good to one another, read horror, keep on writing, and have a great, great day.
This is Horror Podcast.